Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei Extras. Today there's another Reddit post, and as per usual, the expectation is for me to respond. I saw it in the comments, here we are. So, somebody made a post saying that they think every block horse feels the same. You're free to have that opinion. Sure, okay. I will try my best to partially respond, and then also talk about something else, because I think it's relevant now. Because it feels like this happens every single time. And I just want to talk about it a little bit. So, first, this post says that they feel like every blockers is the same, that it gets stale. They watch a bunch of different POVs, and they feel like they've seen everything already. Which, sure, if you feel like that, that's fine. But then we go to the game by game, and I'm a little confused, and also a little... I feel like there's a level of bias, but this is my opinion, right? So let's look into it. From a game-by-game perspective, Trailblazers Order Up and Tombtines were awesome at first, but after continuing to play with minimal changes, have become uninteresting and stale in their gameplay. Trailblazers, I don't really know what you'd want to happen for Trailblazers. There's been a bunch of new levels like thrown in over time. Every single time an event happens, pretty much, there's a few new Trailblazers levels that get thrown into the pool. So sure, yeah, there's going to be levels that you've seen before many times, but I don't think it's really that big of a deal. If you think Trailblazers is uninteresting to watch, that's fine. I personally don't super love watching Trailblazers all the time, although I do think it's really interesting to see people complete an obstacles course in a quick amount of time or whatever, right? So sure. Order Up, I am super confused at, considering the game literally just got a major update that significantly changed it. There was a whole new crafting method added, recipes were changed, new map, everything. It literally feels like a almost brand new game. So I don't understand how that is a game with minimal changes. That's ridiculous to me personally. And Tombtines, I agree. Tombtines, I think, should be updated more. We can't. I've already said this in the past. We can't. Tombtines was thrown into this invitational recently with no opportunity to even get a chance to change it. So people, saying oh, I don't really love Tomb. Sure, it's the same pretty much as it was before, right? So that doesn't really make a difference. So that's fine. If you were of that opinion, that's okay. Lunge, sure. We've had many people had their debates on that. Oversleep is repetitive and not particularly fun. If you don't like Spleef, that's fine, but I don't really agree that it's repetitive and not fun. I personally really like Spleef. Recently, Meteor Spleef got added back in, literally in blockwars 17. Let me see if I can find it. Right here. We haven't seen this mode in over a year, so it feels pretty fresh. Sure, this maybe wasn't used in the Feinberg event, if that's what you're referring to, but that... We're making claims about the current state of the event based off of one event that didn't feature half of the changes that were recently made, so it's quite interesting. Furthermore, race doesn't get new maps often. Sure, but no racing game gets new maps often. MCC gets a new race map once a year. Block Wars does that roughly in the same amount, maybe a little bit less, and I honestly don't think at this current moment we are able to make new race maps. I don't really understand what you'd want from race. Plus, there is a map that's been played twice. Is that a problem already? I don't understand what the expectation is for a racing game. You can't get a new map every single time. What do you want from this game? I just don't get it. I personally really just don't understand how that's really a problem. Plus, the game didn't even get played recently. The game got played in blockwars 17 on a map that had been played once before. I don't know, man. Battle and Extraction are alright, but need more map variation. Battle, sure, it's just not in rotation very often. It's a very low priority game. Extraction is a crazy take to me, because that's the game that gets the most new maps. Literally, again, had a brand new map in Blocker 17, despite Bazaar being a map that had been played twice before. There's a bunch of Extraction maps that get thrown into rotation, so I don't really understand how there's a lack of map variation, because it's the game that gets the most map variation and gets like cycled in and out almost every single event. I feel like there's that. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Party and Blitzen are still somewhat fresh and seem easy to keep fresh. Sure. As a whole, I'm never excited for blockers like him for MCC, despite the events sharing so many fun and competitive creators. Every event is just with every MCC. There's memorable moments, and blockers doesn't have that for me. To me, this sounds like you just enjoy MCC more than Block Wars, and that's fine. You can say that without like bringing down Block Wars. Just because you like MCC more, whether it's bias or just because certain games or certain people interest you more, is fine. But please don't drag down Block Wars because of that. It feels a little bit weird, especially when half of the arguments that are being made are just not true. Like, I don't know, like, Extraction gets a bunch of map variation. Order Up literally just got changed. Like, Race is the same as Ace Race in terms of new maps. I don't know, man. Sure. Whatever, right? So that's my response to this. For the rest, I don't really... Sure, if you don't like watching, don't watch. Like, it doesn't really bother me that much. Just... it's exhausting, man. It's just an exhausting topic, and everything. A Minecraft event scene is just exhausting, and I will get into that now. Recently, on my third channel, which some of you may know about, some of you don't. You really don't have to watch, but if you want to just hear me yap a little bit more than I usually do, feel free to check it out. I made a post about growth and reflecting and kind of looking at progress, right? As a personal person, me, can I progress? And I was kind of analyzing, you know, some of the stuff I do, and came to the conclusion that Block Wars is kind of a hurdle. Not a hurdle, it's like a mountain that I have to cross, because it feels like a constant uphill battle that we're fighting, and there's no moment where it feels like there's a proper reward, right? Whether it's us doing an update and people don't like the update, or us not doing an update and people want an update, whether it's, you know, we get a cool roster, but the people don't play again, and then people demand certain people to be in when it doesn't really make sense, or when those people don't want to play, or whatever, right? There's so many things that is consistently and constantly an uphill battle where it sometimes questions me, like, is it even worth doing, right? Because, like, what's the point? Where's the reward? Where's the result? What are we expecting? What do we want? Because clearly, no matter what you do, there's always something wrong, and that's consistently the case with Minecraft events. I look at a recent MCC, you know, event, and I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, sure, Battle Box could have been a little bit, you know, different and would have been more fun. But what I saw here was that it mainly became like somebody did a complaint post, and a bunch of negativity and attention came to the negativity, because it usually happens, right? Negative attention usually is the most talked about, right? Whatever is negative usually gets talked about the most. That's just how it works. And you get posts like these in response, where it's like, let's be positive, guys. Let's be positive. It's like, this happens every time. Every single time. And almost every event, this happens every single time. And it's just baffling and exhausting. Look at the state of the event scene, and look at where the issues lie, and tell me you don't understand why people don't want to host events as often, because it genuinely is just exhausting. Genuinely. Also, there's a disconnect, of course, between the three titans of playing or experiencing events, right? You have the players, you have the viewers, and you have the testers. None of the three groups share the same opinion. And who are you trying to appeal to? Obviously, sorry, it's not the testers. You're not making the event for the testers. They're there to help, and you'll listen to what they have to say, but you have to value, is what they want from the event the same as what the players or viewers would want? And then it's players versus viewers. There are games people enjoy playing, but people don't really enjoy watching, or vice versa. And it's really hard to really act upon it, because what should actually happen, right? So I don't know. Either way, I don't remember what I was going to say. What was it again? Oh yeah, exhausting. Look at the state of the event scene. MCC happens like 6 times a year at this point. If I look at Wolfeei stats, I could probably see the events thus far. They've hosted 1, 2, this doesn't count, 3, 4 events this year. We know there's a Twitch Rivals in October, and then there's at most 2 events after, but likely only 1. We don't really know. So it's going to be, 7 events, maybe 1 less total. The reason Magenta E Trophy doesn't count is because it's an invitational. I don't really know why it's on Wolfeei stats, but sure. It's essentially the same as what Feinberg just did with blockwars, or what the German team or the German people did with blockwars recently as well. It's an invitational. It's not an official MCC. Either way, you already see MCC slowed down, and the response to this shows a disconnect yet again between the audience, the players, and actually the hosts as well. So MCC pulled after season 3 the player base for what they wanted, right? They asked, hey, what do you guys want from MCC? And the main response overall was less events, but the events are more standout. They're more special, right? There's something more to it. And that's what they did, right? They hosted less events, but every event became more of an attention grabber, something more interesting. And guess what happened? The audience cares more now for the MCCs. There is more interest. The only people who don't care as much anymore, or who complain, are the people who were there for season 3 when things were going downhill and liked that part of the event. And that's totally fine, but again, it's a disconnect in the audience. There is just different levels of interest across the board, and some people will like some things and some things they won't like, right? That's how it works. In which I would say modern day MCC is a great comeback from how it went previously. In season 3, at the end, there was a point where people were not worried, but were mentioning how Block Wars was about to overtake MCC in popularity. Come season 4 and season 5, the script has been flipped. It's almost the opposite again, right? It's like Block Wars and MCC were literally like level head in terms of competition, theoretically speaking, and MCC is just quite a few steps above Block Wars again at this current moment, because they fixed the problem, right? They hosted less events, made events more special, and from the player standpoint, it became more interesting. For most of the viewers, it also becomes more interesting, except for that very strong core audience that just wants more and more and more. But the problem is, the moment they want more and more and more, there's less updates, and then you see the gameplay there more often. It's going to be the most similar, and then that's a thing to complain about again. It's just consistent cycles of what's wrong, let me point it out, right? Which is fine, you can share your opinion, but it's exhausting, right? So that's the MCC side of things. Block Wars now, of course, already has Origins. Events are still hosted pretty often, plus there's invitationals. There's just a lot of Block Wars. So we are now the event that kind of gives you the quantity, right? MCC is more on the quality, we're on the quantity. Still a high quality event, but it's just the main focus right now from the audience standpoint is that it's hosted very often, right? And that's fine, but it comes to a detriment to the event, right? It's something that doesn't help the event at all. Hosting events very often doesn't mean that every event suddenly gains popularity. It just means that every game gets played a certain amount of times, etc., right? There's just more going on. In which I think, I kind of mentioned it to an extent here. I don't really know what we're going to do. Once our plans for the remainder of the year are done and 2026 hits, I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be a significant amount less of Block Wars. Like, I don't know how much less, but you're not getting monthly main events and Origins and Invitationals. That's not happening. I can guarantee you that. The quantity of events goes down. The thing is, just because the quantity of events goes down doesn't mean that suddenly the gameplay gets updated a bunch more, right? Because that's also the expectation that people have now, is that there's a certain amount of workload that goes into every event. So if every event is super frequent, the workload is less. But if an event becomes less frequent, suddenly they're going to do so much more. No. It's exhausting. We're not doing that, okay? We just... Look, man, I'll say this just because I think it's something that needs to be repeated often enough to make people realize events are hosted entirely for fun, entirely voluntary aside from MCC. I could bet you that the reason partially as well that MCC hosts events less is because of money. But I don't know. I can't confirm that, but at least I know that like most, well, actually every other Minecraft event that isn't like EVNT or whatever is hosted voluntarily, right? It's hosted by a team of people that just want to make cool stuff and host it and have people play, etc. But I think again there's a bit of a disconnect where people forget about that sometimes. They don't really realize that there is, you know, so much passion that goes into it with no reward really of it, right? Sure, it's really fun to see people play your event and it's cool, but after a certain amount of time, it does come to a point where like you're doing this for free for so long and you're not really getting anywhere. Like, what's the point? Blockwars has been hosting stuff for like a while. I'll say with, you know, the rebrand and whatever, not rebrand, but like with everything else, I'd give it like 3 years of runtime almost, maybe a little bit less. And like, where have we gotten? Sure, it's the biggest, second biggest Minecraft event. Sure, high quality events. Sure, it's not actually considered an MCC copy anymore. But what have you accomplished? What is there to accomplish, right? Like there's no gain really from it anymore. Events don't really gain popularity anymore. MCC has been doing great, but has probably consistently been losing, you know, followers here and there, or on Twitter probably, right? Just because there's not really anything to like grow an audience on the event side of things very actively. The only way you do it is if you have certain creators in very often, and that just isn't realistic, right? That just doesn't happen. Either way, that's the two big events that I mentioned. PB doesn't really exist anymore, right, at this current moment. I don't actually think that is because of the pressure of hosting events, but I don't think the pressure of hosting events helps in any way, right? With PB, because it's so competitive, there's always a lot to analyze and criticize, and it's just, again, exhausting. Mayhem doesn't really exist anymore. Mayhem got a lot of criticism before it ended up, you know, departing from the event scene pretty much, because people felt the need to, you know, complain about everything. When in reality, I think you should just either play or watch less events. If you don't really like it, just like don't play it. I don't know, man. Just don't play it. It's really that simple. And then what other events? Buy and Battle happens like every now and then, but even Buy and Battle gets frequent criticism about its games. Mania just came back. It's pretty solid, but they also took like a year break because I assume they also felt the need to do a major, you know, change of plans. Chamber Trials is doing pretty decent, but I very much recognize a pattern in Chamber Trials where it feels very similar to early Block Wars, right? In early Block Wars, there was a lot of momentum and people were very hyped to see another event pop off. But it comes to a point where that momentum dies down. You can't really continue that momentum. Sure, you can invite new creators. Sure, you can add new games and changes. But at some point, you'll be satisfied with what you have, and then the audience will keep asking for more and more, which I actually think is where Block Wars is at right now, right? MCC had this in Season 3, where I very much remember Stefan in an update video pretty much saying, our games are good enough, or like our events are good enough, so we're gonna do other fun stuff, which that's fine, right? That's okay. And I think we're at a point there now with Block Wars where like I feel like a lot of the games are good. Like I don't really know what you would want to change from an event, just or from the games in an event. Really, like I don't know. I feel like the games are fine. I enjoy it. It's cool. You look at all the games here. I'm like, Extraction's fun. Race, sure. Like the real thing is it would just be to add new games, right, for something like Block Wars. But that is, again, easier said than done. And again, the amount of effort it takes to make a new game means other things can't be worked on. There are other things that need to be worked on. You can get a new game, but you don't get a special type of event. Or you can get a new game, but you don't get two other games to get some updates, right? Like, that's how it works, generally speaking. It's an oversimplification because it would have to be a new game like a Blitz Hunt that's simple to take away from another thing. Plus, something like Party, a new mini game, is, it's just a lot of workload. It's still kind of a new game. It's just a new game that's only a quarter of another game, right? Etc. Like, there's so many things that come into the equation, and like, it's just a lot. It's just a lot, really. It really just is a lot. So, in regards to this post, what's it called? Yeah, in regards to this post, if you feel like every blockwars is the same, that's fine. But, I don't know. I don't really know what you'd want the event to do. What do you want less events? You could say I want more change, but what should change, right? Like that. There's not really any guidance in this at all. Just because you watch the same POVs every time and they're good at the game, and that's why you don't like the games as much, that's fine. But like, that doesn't mean the event needs to change. Plus, as well, I will mention, because this is very relevant for Block Wars, the event is designed for lower comp, non-experienced Minecrafters to have an event that is accessible to them. Sure, there are games that are a little bit more complex, but that isn't really a problem usually because there's people on a team that can help, right? But a lot of the games need to be simple because you can't have MCC levels of game design with more complexity and stuff with a variety like focused roster that doesn't really know what the hell is going on. It just doesn't work. I am of the opinion that you cannot make a lower comp friendly Minecraft event nowadays without making it simple games. It's literally impossible. The only people that could do it are the very established Minecrafters that just get their friends to play because it's their friends playing. That's how MCC essentially works now. A new event can't do it. It's just not possible. It really just fundamentally is not possible. So the only way forward for Block Wars with low comp and making things interesting, having variety creators play consistently, is by making stuff that's simple, right? And just fun. And I feel like we're doing stuff that is pretty simple and fun, generally speaking. There are some standouts that are not as simple, right? Trailblazers, Order Up, I think, are some of the more complex games. Tomb Titans I could throw into this as well. I think these three are honestly not a bad example of games that are a little bit more on the confusing side. I think Tomb Titans is actually not that complex, but sure, right? And that's just the way it is, right? That's just how the event progresses. So I don't know. Either way, yeah, I saw some people comment as well. I think Laguna had a response that I thought was pretty solid. Of course, it's from a player point of view, which I think is always the most valuable, is a player point of view, because as much as you're a viewer watching the event, there are people you are watching playing said event. So in order for the event to function as a full experience, there needs to be people that play it that you are interested in watching. So that's why I think the players are, generally speaking, the most interesting POV to watch. And yeah, I think he brings up some points here as well, mainly in regards to what I would extract from this being the what's it called? The competitive side of things and how the viewers view it, right? I think something like Block Wars functions the best when it is something like Block Wars 17, where you have very few top S tiers, and you have a bit more of a well-rounded roster where different people get a chance to pop off. The main problem is a lot of the S tiers, because of how the event scene and just Minecraft has developed, are the more popular creators that people want to see. So that's already impossible to live up to, right? There are S tiers people want to see who are just going to be amazing at every game because they're that much better, or and there is this experience people want, and that I think also works well, where you don't have the S tiers in the event, where it's a bit more of an even playing field and different people that you don't really typically see doing well in events get a chance to pop off. It's just you can't have both. It's either or, and it feels like it's an impossible thing to solve. And then as well, I think I'll just look at this, what's it called? end portion because I think this is very valid. The discussion surrounding events focuses mainly on the top 10 players. The clip channels and compilations focus mainly on the top 10 players. The team predictions focus on mainly the S tier players. And the community as a whole condenses around mainly the top 10 to 20 players. That's what the community has indicated they want, and that's what the staff of blockwars and many other events have been forced to cater to. Blockwars isn't stale, the community's expectations are. And I agree. And that's just how events naturally progress, right? The people that watch MCC, generally speaking, always pay attention to the S tiers because they're the best players. The people who watch football always pay attention to the best football players because they're the best. It's just going to be the most interesting, generally speaking. Ronaldo, Messi, Mbappe, whoever, right? There's going to always be something about these people that is the most interesting to watch. And that's just how competitive sports and competitive experiences work, right? You watch the F1 or whatever, you watch Max, right? Of course, because he's the best. Like that's just how it goes. But in all honesty, if I was what's it called, an F1 viewer, and I like Max, but he just keeps winning, isn't it just kind of boring? He just always wins. You just know he's gonna win. Same thing here. You like watching Minecraft events, but you watch Feinberg. You always know Feinberg's gonna get a top performance. It doesn't really matter if he gets first, second, or third. The only time it's actually interesting is if Feinberg doesn't get top 3, right? It's a flip of the script. So I don't know. That I think I've yapped my yap long enough. If you think the event is still, that's fine, but I don't think that's the event's fault necessarily, if I'm being fully honest. The one thing I will agree with is that I think the frequency of events should probably go down, and it definitely will in the future, of course, 2026 onwards, assuming the event even goes on for that long, because again, it's exhausting, but we'll see. And yeah, I think Laguna makes a very good point. So anyways, thank you for watching. See you later. Goodbye.